everybody. Welcome to another Nacho Tuesday. And today I'm here with an old friend, Bryce Froberg, who's going to introduce his company. And we're going to talk about some great fundamentals into hiring top talent. And his particular company has a lot of experience, as a tool for background checks, interfacing with a lot of recruiters and understanding the industry from the inside out. He also has a lot of experience being a hiring manager himself and has some really keen insights into that. So without further ado, we'd love for him to introduce his company with a short elevator pitch and learn more about what he does.
Hey, thanks, Andy. Yeah, so I own the background check company, and we do exactly what the name says. We provide background checks and pre-employment screening services to companies throughout the country. We work with a little more than 4,000 clients right now. And really our goal is to help during that vetting process and provide some key information for hiring managers to make a well-informed decision.
Perfect. So many companies don't perform quality background checks. That's probably how people like me slip through. Just kidding. What are some of the potentially negative outcomes of that? Got any horror stories that you could share without naming any company names, of course?
Yeah, certainly. So probably about 10% of the companies that we onboard with either come to us after a poor experience with an applicant, or we happen to reach out to them during the sales process and they've just had a bad experience. So for us, and we're biased, right? We think that every company should be running a background check to some level. It's an additional piece of information on that applicant. It helps the hiring manager and the company as a whole to be better informed on who you are hiring and who you're bringing on your team. As far as a horror story goes, yeah, we had a client come on board about 18 months ago, and they weren't running background checks at the time. They were a technology company. They provided technology services to a lot of different businesses, but school districts in particular for this instance.
Oh, geez, I can see where this is going.
Yeah, and so they ended up hiring someone that was a registered sex offender. And as part of their job, they were a technology consultant, and they went into an elementary school. And they didn't do anything wrong at this trip, but because of their service level agreement, the school district ended up canceling their contract with that company. They ended up losing that school district, all because they didn't run a simple background check on that individual. Now, that was an unfortunate situation. Like I said, that employee didn't do anything wrong. They just had this on their record. Had the company performed a background check, they would have alleviated that issue and retained that business most likely. But we get feedback like that every once in a while on applicants that slip through the cracks, and it causes a problem, hurts business. So we see the services we're providing as a helpful resource for sure.
That's unfortunate to hear. Yeah, I could just tell that was going to be a bad news story right from the beginning.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yep. Well, great. Yeah, I mean, that's why we're here to talk about, the practices of hiring and, background checks being one of them. Do you have any tips for SMB owners on where to look for and identify the best talent, aside from trying to browse through a pile of resumes painstakingly, if people still do that these days?
Yeah, certainly. I think, job boards have their place, and it's a great way to not only make applicants aware that there's an opening at your company. I think any company should be utilizing job boards to a certain level. We like to take a very active approach, and we found this to be really successful where networking, whether that be in-person events, through LinkedIn, or just through contacts that you make, understanding and getting to know people a bit better with in the back of your mind going, hey, we might have a position, or there might be an opportunity here. We have someone on our staff, for example, that works with our customer success team that was the store manager for a gas station. And it was one of those quick trip gas stations. They're beautiful. They're very busy. And I had walked in one time and they were performing really unbelievably, in my opinion. So just introduced myself. We had a little conversation. I ended up coming back later just to get to know this individual. And over the course of time, we exchanged contact information. And then when we had an opening, I reached out just to get a feel for their goals and see if we would be a fit. And I encourage our leadership team here, same thing, just be active, get to know people through networking events. It may not be the time to hire now, but the best position to be in as a company is to be able to reach out to someone for an opportunity when they're not necessarily, fully looking. Because when someone's fully looking, now they're worried about income level, they're worried about job security, they're worried about things that they're trying to sell you on to a certain extent. Great. And so we like to take an active approach with our hiring, and probably 40 to 50% of our hires have come on board with us without ever posting the job. They're just people that we ran across, and we've had a lot of success that way.
Yeah, that's a great point that you brought up. I mean, a lot of people that are, desperate in the job hunt might take the first thing that comes along rather than, maybe the job that might be the best fit. But I've seen in the past people that might not check all the boxes per se for the job description that you actually know and have worked with in the past. Understanding that these people can perform and even learn new tasks if they need to, tend to perform better than some people that might look. If you look on a resume that might check all the boxes, they might not mesh as well with the team and perform as well, in my opinion.
100%. Yeah, we can't control their previous experiences. All we can control is what positions we put them in moving forward. And you're right. There's people that have experience that may not line up perfectly, but they bring a lot of value to the table, certainly.
And I certainly encourage, with my team and, over the years as well, been a part of many companies, and I always, encourage kind of growing from the inside out, right? So the best employee referrals are always, people that your peers and coworkers and employees have actually worked with in the past and can vouch for. And, more likely than not, I mean, they have a working relationship, so they're probably going to mesh well together and fit right into the role really quickly.
Big time. And the irony of what you just said in relation to the service we provide isn't that effectively a form of a background check? Hey, you've worked with this person.
Yep.
How they perform, what they bring to the table. This is what we're looking to do. Do you think they're a good fit? I mean, that's kind of intangible. We can't provide that information, but that is a piece of that vetting process, right? And so I think companies are looking on how best to do that, and that's certainly a way to do it.
That's a great point. Yeah, word of mouth is always, the best best way to do background checks.
Big time.
Perfect. So you say you have to browse through a pile of resumes. Hopefully you never have to do that because hopefully we've matured into the digital age now. But what do you usually look for when you're quickly trying to identify if a resume deserves more evaluation or not?
Yeah, so much like companies have a sales funnel, they know exactly what that sales funnel is going to look like. They know how they're going to fill the top of that funnel and how it's going to trickle down. Hiring managers, entrepreneurs, HR teams, they need to have a process in place during the hiring process. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is really twofold. One is the applicant needs to know what that process is going to look like, because oftentimes if you get 100 applicants, the majority of those are looking for a certain compensation level, a certain job title or level within the organization. And then there's other factors that are contributing there, right? Commute time, what's the work-life balance? They're also vetting you as the business owner. So you need to first establish a structure of what is that going to look like for the applicant, because what you don't want,
it goes both ways.
Big time. It does. Because much like if you think of fishing net, the small fish are going to fall through that fishing net. And you don't want one of those fish to fall through. That would be a great asset to your company. So you don't want to lose them because you're unorganized. So that's the first part. The second is you need to understand the job that you're hiring for and what that job description looks like. If you're hiring to add a team member under a manager in your accounting department, what does that manager's resume look like? And use that manager's resume as a baseline. Now, as you're combing through those 100 resumes or 200 resumes, if those applicants don't meet or exceed or come very close to that manager's resume, and without necessarily the managerial experience, of course, just kick them to the side. Communicate with them. Hey, sorry, it's not a good fit right now. But have something that you're using as a reference. We like to use internal resumes, people that we've hired that have done really well for us. We'll keep those on file. And that's perfectly appropriate for your HR department to do. Pull that resume out, redact the personal information and go, what did this person bring to the table that allowed us to be successful? And use that as your framework. The same way you'd put together any KPIs or a sales funnel, do the same thing during your hiring process, and then vet against that resume from there. And that should allow you to be successful and cut through some of that noise pretty quickly.
You sound like a pro. You're not just hiring the first guy in the door either.
Well, hopefully you're not, but sometimes that happens.
It does, yeah. Well, especially if it comes through a great word of mouth from one of your peers, as we discussed.
Certainly.
Yep. I guess what other key traits would you look for when hiring? Maybe not necessarily hard skills, but maybe soft skills that they might have demonstrated in some way or another.
So we're really big on goals. We meet quite often on our company goals. I like to meet with my staff members on what are their personal goals. The worst thing you can have going on as a business owner is, hey, our goals are inconsistent with the employee, or there's something in that employee's life that's causing them stress over and beyond what's manageable to them, and they're not feeling like their employment with you is going to help them overcome that, whether it be financial or whatever it may be, right? Mm-hmm. So what we like to look for, because we kind of have goals in the back of our mind at all time, is we like to look at proficiency, experience, and then what that applicant's goals are. I want to bring people in with a proficiency level that exceeds either the person whose job they're taking, or it kind of exceeds our expectation, to be quite honest, because I want to learn from them. I want to be able to turn over responsibilities to them and allow them to really take off with that. Because as entrepreneurs, it's all too common for us to try to take on way, way too much.
Oh yeah.
And the cliche is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Well, if you can get two people taking bites out of that elephant, you're going to consume that elephant a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And so we look for proficiency, and we try not to be intimidated by their proficiency level, to be honest. And we've had those situations. The next thing we look for is experience. What have they done in the past, and how can we leverage that experience? Because what they're bringing to the table with past experience, again, is twofold. First off, they're bringing been there, done that, right? That we can rely on, we can offload that responsibility. But what they're also bringing is a different perspective. And it's just so easy to get locked in tunnel vision, especially as an entrepreneur, and go, hey, I'm heading down the tracks and this is where I'm going.
Yep.
Well, we need a little bit of friction, right? That's how those wheels get going on the tracks.
Yep.
So if we can create some friction with a different point of view, and then take a half step back and go, hey, okay, how does that impact our business? One of my favorite experiences during my MBA was there was a gentleman that I think was the COO for Starbucks. And his experience working, he was with a furniture company before that. And he got promoted quite quickly. And I remember when he relayed this story to us, he said that he was in a board meeting, I think, and he was mid to late 30s. So he was quite young to be in a board meeting. And the chairman of the board came up to him after the meeting and said, hey, if you're not going to give us your opinion, and if you're just going to toe the party line and be a yes person, we don't have a need for you. You can just go back to being an executive or whatever it may be. And that resonated with him. And he took that and applied that to his career moving forward, and allowed him to move up the ranks to be, like I said, the COO of Starbucks at one point. But we're very big on, if you have an opinion, if you have an opposing view, can we hear it in some capacity? Because you don't know what you don't know. So we're vetting for experience. Proficiency, experience, and then, of course, do their goals align with our goals? There's a lot that's said without being said. And I don't mean to be vague. Let me explain. If you get in with a fast growing company, that's very different than a large, mature company that's kind of set in its ways, where you have your daily, weekly, monthly to-dos. I have a report due this month. I have my weekly things I need to get done and check those boxes. When you're in a growth company, what's communicated to applicants while in a growth company is you may take on some things that are outside of your job description. That's going to be a conversation, of course. It's not going to be an expectation. You may have the need or feel like you need to work extra hours. Okay, that's, again, a conversation to be had to make sure that you're being compensated fairly for the work you're putting in. But there's different things communicated depending on where your company is at during the growth cycle. And so we're vetting for goals to make sure that our goals are in alignment with our applicants' goals.
Yep, you're exactly right. Yeah, there's a lot of people I've seen, not that it's good or bad, right? Some people like that high growth environment where there's a little bit less structure sometimes, where you have to kind of think on the fly. You have to kind of come up with some of your own ideas and be responsible for implementing them. And it's okay to fail. You should always be trying, and especially as a company, a growth company that's looking to be one of the big dogs someday, you have to ultimately take some risks. And your employees are going to learn from that, which is a great asset to have as they build their experience. Bigger companies, there might be a little bit more red tape and structure, but that fits for some people, right? And that's there's a reason why there's some of the top brands in the world. You can go and have have that structured, maybe not a 9 to 5, but around that point where like when you clock in, what your tasks are every day, and then you clock out and you go home to your family after that. Yeah,
you don't want to assume that everyone gets excited to go to work. Some people do, and they want to be a part of that high growth environment, and that's a lot of fun when you have that buy-in. And if you don't have that right fit, that can hinder and certainly hurt the culture as well as just progress. So you want to vet for that as soon as possible. It's expensive to rehire, very expensive.
Oh yeah, culture fit is just key for everything. If you hire the right culture, you could build an amazing team around that.
That's right.
I guess, what would you say is the most overrated trait hiring managers look for?
Education.
Education. I was going to say this.
Yeah. So education level, there's certain jobs and titles, that you need to have that. If you're hiring someone on the accounting side and they're going to be one of your senior accounting personnel, you probably want someone with a CPA or someone with some of those credentials. And that makes a lot of sense just to verify that. I'm someone that was, at 34 years old, college was the thing that my generation did, right? And that's what made a lot of sense. And then at that point, because I'm a little later on in the millennial generation, it was, okay, grad school might be a necessity. So I have 3 letters next to my name in an MBA that sometimes have allowed me to have conversations with people, and other times, certainly haven't hurt. But it's kind of funny to me that just because I have those letters and I was willing to pay for that piece of paper It provides that credibility. Now, I think it's a valuable, what would be the right way to describe it? It's a valuable, degree to have, certainly. But if you're vetting just on educational level, I think you're missing the boat big time.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, some of the best people I've ever worked with, didn't necessarily have the same education pedigree as people would compare with like a Harvard or Princeton. But
Yeah.
certainly they had the experience, and they had the drive, and they were smart, and maybe they didn't have the economic capabilities to kind of go to some of those bigger schools. But a lot of times I see those people being more motivated even to improve themselves and get that experience that ultimately in the long run in their career proves to be very valuable.
Yep, I agree.
So I guess what fundamental questions would you ask a new potential hire when evaluating them?
So during the hiring process, we've really gotten away from more standardized questions. Tell us how you would address this issue, or tell us what you bring to the table. Tell us about a time that you were really challenged and how you overcame that. Those are important. And those, that's kind of like sand in a jar. Each one of those sand kernels is going to eventually fill up the jar, but no single sand kernel fills up the jar all the way, right?
Yeah.
Going back to an earlier comment, we really do focus a lot on what are the goals of that applicant, and can we help facilitate and help them accomplish those goals? And we address those quite often. It's once to twice a year where it's a formalized conversation with our employees. Where are you at? Are you happy with where you're at? Are we helping you with those goals that you had expressed prior? Have your goals changed in any way? And how can we address that? So we do a lot of vetting on the goal side, but that's also because with their goals, we can understand a lot more about that applicant than just tell us about something that happened in the past. Because we want to understand, do they still have that same hunger now and into the future?
Yeah, if you understand what drives people, I mean, that's the most important thing in everything, right? Even even in sales and marketing, like from a marketing guy myself, like how do I design a better product experience for people, assuming what their expectations for a good product are? How do we, communicate the value proposition that we've built with the product to the right audience that actually cares about that problem? Sales guys, same thing, right? You don't just sell your solution; you sell the solution to the problem. You have to really put yourself in the other person's shoes. And I like that you brought that point up about kind of this employee-employer collaboration, right? It's almost like a partnership. And if you really understand the goals and values of your employees and what they're trying to accomplish in their career, I think you could pull the best work out of them that way. If you guys are both aligned, going in the same direction, growing, I think it's best for both parties that way.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Andy. If you know what motivates them and they're excited to work for you, it's very easy to have the discussion of, hey, Steve, or hey, Sally, what's going on? How are things going? I noticed this is what's happening. Are we still in alignment with your goals? Is there something that we're missing? Oh, well, I sent this email out and I didn't get communication back, so I kind of felt stuck. Hey, thanks for letting me know. Next time, just come to me. But the other thing is you won't have, we talked about hiring earlier and that active approach. You won't have a better word of mouth referral than that employee that feels like their needs, wants, desires are being met at work, which is allowing them to meet their needs, wants, and desires out of work.
Yeah.
You're not going to find a better referral than that employee.
Oh yeah, they're going to be telling all their friends about how cool their job is. They're going to be like, hey, here's my resume.
Big time. And it doesn't take the ping pong tables and the keg of beer and everything else that was made popular in the early to mid in the office space. It's, I'm growing with this company and these are my goals and they're helping me get there. So
I'm just glad we got past the cubicle stage.
Yeah, there we go. Agreed.
Yeah, remote work's pretty great. I think it's good work-life balance for a lot of employees out there too. So besides using a professional firm like yours, what are some other basic background checks that somebody can do besides Googling, of course? We mentioned word of mouth earlier, which I agree is totally the number one. Do you have any other ideas there that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so it's probably going to come at no surprise to anyone that sees this, but every company should have some background check procedure in place, in our opinion. Now, I think what's often misunderstood is what goes into a background check. We have background checks packages for clients that range from a few dollars all the way up to a couple $100. We can search 250 different countries and provide criminal, civil, as well as driving history, drug testings. Really, we can kind of cover most criteria that a company is looking for. And it's going to be information that you can't find through a Google search. Mm-hmm. So you're welcome to do a Google search. It's certainly a useful tool. you can check social media accounts, but as we all know, and I think many of us have maybe even grown annoyed with, is no one's going to post their genuine, authentic selves on social media. On LinkedIn, it's their best forward-facing, achievements professionally. Yep. On social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it may be that they're utilizing, they're not showing the struggle and the friction in their lives. They're showing, hey, look what we did here. Look at the great food we ate. And that's awesome. It's a cool shared experience to see your friends or your contacts having success or having a good time, but you're getting a very narrow perspective of that individual. So there are certain routes. I'm not saying, hey, you shouldn't do that. But if we're looking at it holistically, there's information that you simply don't have access to without running a background check. And if the hesitancy is price point, or I don't know where to start, just call us for we're going to chat with you first. We're not going to be pushy, or call a different provider for that matter, and just say, hey, I want to better understand this. I mean, we would love to earn your business, but be well informed of what really comes with the background check, because I think it's more than most people realize.
Yeah, because especially for startups and early growth companies, the team you start with is critical to where your company's going to go. So you want to make sure not just that they have the pedigree or the experience, but you're bringing the right people on your team, and sometimes you have to do some of those basic background checks just to ensure that you're who you're hiring. Pretty much.
Yeah, especially to your point, if you're growing and you're moving, you don't want to be taking steps back. You want to be trying to move forward in the right ways. And for $10, $20, I mean, a background check package we could put together, it's well worth it for that employee. Because if you hire that employee and they're on for a couple months and it doesn't work out and you have to rehire for that position, that at times can be 2 to 3 times their salary and value that's lost. And if it's being compromised over a $20 background check, fiscally, you're not making the right decision.
Yeah, there's a term for that: penny wise, dollar foolish.
There you go.
Yep. So I guess let's get into some more personal stuff here. I guess failure, right? So failure comes with every profession. Would you be able to tell us the time where you failed?
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe on areas where I failed more specifically, I guess. So I've been working to be an entrepreneur.
You got a laundry list too, if you want me to.
Yeah. So I've been working to be an entrepreneur since I graduated from college. I tried something right out of college 14 years ago, and that didn't work out. I didn't manage cash flows very well at all. I've certainly hired way too early. I've also hired way too late and caused myself a lot more stress than I needed to, which then resulted in a lack of productivity, because one of the things that comes with too much stress is procrastination, because you're feeling overwhelmed. I've not turned over enough responsibility to employees, and I've also not structured certain positions and what their expectations are very well. So I've been fortunate to be able to maintain every business that I've started and either exit through the sale of that business or maintain it to this day. But certainly I've had, I think, a lot of those entrepreneurial struggles where, for me, a lot of it was learning through experience. I try to read and I try to be involved that way and to learn that way. But for me, I'm very much hands-on, and I learn best through experience. So we've had some hard times there, but with the background check company, we've been fortunate because it's come late enough in the maturation process that we haven't had any major hiccups to this point. We're, of course, still working on growing and becoming a better company, and there will be challenges along the way. But most of my failures have been around, I think, a lot of those maybe more typical bottlenecks of, crap, I did not manage cash flow very well. I got to put employees on pause for payroll. I need to have that tough conversation. And those, of course, have been very uncomfortable, but you learn to overcome those and manage better as time goes on.
Yep. Yeah. It's a trial by fire, if you will. I felt like, my experiences as an entrepreneur and, working with NachoNacho now, has given me so much, insights that a lot of people don't get, right? If you just, work in the same type of position or company your whole life. I've always been in this position where you had to, pick up a shovel and dig, right? So I've had to learn finance. I've had to learn, how to build products, technology products. Heck, I even learned how to build hardware products and manufacture in China. So write my own patent. Like, if there's a will, there's a way, right? And if you're an entrepreneurial mindset person, you don't believe in not being able to accomplish something. You just ask, what's the first step? What's my vision? What's the first step? And then how do I take one step at a time to get towards that vision further down the road that I have? And I think, it gives you this priceless experience that you can't really get just from getting an educational degree at Harvard or something like that.
Yeah, everything's figure outable. I don't think that's a word, but I love the phrase or the quote that I've heard before. We've kind of championed it, but everything's figure outable.
Could be the word of the year.
So yeah, cool.
I guess the other part where I learned a lot of information from is through other people's experiences. So I love reading books, especially from people that have accomplished it in various fields, various levels of experience of leadership and entrepreneurship as well. What are the favorite books that you've read this year that have taught you some lessons, and what would you recommend for those?
Yeah, so I don't always read business specific books, although I do love books that are related to business. On that front, The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. Obviously, Ben's a big name in Silicon Valley, and I think has one of the largest VC firms, and has grown and exited a number of companies. That was a great book. What's that?
Definitely heard of him.
Yeah, and that was a great book just because the premise, to a certain extent, is kind of just things are just hard. Like, you got to figure it out. And this is how we figured it out. And this is what we overcame. And oftentimes, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, it feels like you're just hitting your head against challenge after challenge. And sometimes that can be really discouraging. So that was a great book. Hopefully that smacking didn't echo there on the camera or on the
You made the point though, which I love that point, because it's that those trials that when you finally get to that point of success, when you see the results of all the work that you put in, it makes it that much more meaningful, I think. And that's the key takeaway there.
Yeah. And then earlier I mentioned, hiring people with proficiency and experience that even exceed mine. Yeah. One of my favorite books that I've read a couple of times now is Team of Rivals by Doris Kearns Goodwin. It's actually on Abraham Lincoln, and it talks about his rise towards the presidency through the political system, but then also the way he put together his cabinet when he became president. And he had opposing viewpoints, opposing political parties, all in his cabinet, and required that they worked well together. And he had the personality to manage that. And I thought that was a phenomenal example. And then Doris Kearns Goodwin, just from, authorship standpoint, the book is tremendously well written, very detailed, a lot of detail there. So that's a great one. What else have I read recently that's good? Breath by James Nestor is just a good book on breathing. And then Traction was a book that was recommended to me by
I love that one. Yes.
a consultant about a year ago.
Yep.
So I read Traction about a year ago. I think it's Gino Wickman is the author. There's a few different books titled Traction. One's on business development. It's also a good book.
Yeah, one was the founder of DuckDuckGo, right? Is that the same guy?
That, I think, is the business development Traction book.
Oh, it is. Okay, cool. You should read that one too. It's very interesting.
But Traction by Gino Wickman is how do you structure your business to grow? So it's different divisions, responsibilities. It's kind of that, how do you effectively build out that org chart? And then what responsibilities do you turn over and where do you back off? And it's going to help any entrepreneur better navigate that growth. Yep. That's a great book.
That's great. So I guess what's one thing that customers should know about the background check company and why they should pick your platform and get it today for 25% off on NachoNacho's marketplace?
Yeah. So for us, we got into this because we owned businesses and had issues running background checks, being annoyed with other vendors and the price point, the turnaround time. Our focus through the entirety of owning this business and running it is speed, price, and integration. And that comes through our value proposition in speed, price, and accuracy. So we want to turn around results as fast or faster than any of our competitors. Yep. We want to have the best price point because price point, unfortunately, still plays a very large role in perceived value. Mm-hmm. Are we delivering greater benefit to the company than what they're paying for? And that's where that value, that difference is what, is assigned to value. And so we want to make sure that we have the most reasonable price point for the service that we're offering. And then we wanted to integrate. And what integration did for us is we were able to integrate in 3 different channels. We like to integrate with the companies we work with. We like to integrate with the HR softwares that are out there and available to the companies. And we like to integrate with the databases that have the criminal record, the civil record, the driving record information. So we pursued those 3 channels of integration, which helped us to turn around results quicker and helped us to reduce our price point. And then on the back end, our quality assurance team will review all results for accuracy. So our value proposition is really centered around speed, price, and accuracy. with our efforts on the back end from our operations side focused on speed, price, and integration. And so for us, we're trying to be the resource that informs our clients as quickly as possible at the best price point with the least amount of friction so they can hire the talent they want on their timeline.
Thanks for that pitch. I mean, it's such a necessary evil, and I think every company should be doing that. I'm surprised more companies don't do background checks. I've heard a lot of startups, think it's ultra expensive, like you mentioned, that it's out of their reach to be able to do it. But now, like you just mentioned, it's achievable by anybody, and it's really a good insurance policy to make sure that you do those background checks.
Yeah, it's good that way. And if you just log online and pick the first one you see, it could be an awesome fit for you, and it very well may be a great resource. Oftentimes, and the reason we're able to save clients 15 to 30% annually on the background check package is they're not being consulted on what they should actually have in that package.
Yep.
So the same way, if you went and just bought all the parts to a car and tried to assemble that car, it's going to be more expensive than actually buying the car pre-assembled.
Yep. Or IKEA furniture, where you just buy it and then you forget about it.
IKEA furniture, an even better example. Thank you for simplifying it for me. But big time, where we're able to say, hey, you want the nationwide criminal? Awesome. You want the nationwide sex offender, for example, based on my current or earlier story. If you search those separately, that's $22. We actually have a package that has those combined and consolidated for $7. So it's having that sort of consultation, 15 to 20 minutes, we can have a client fully onboarded and rocking and rolling as well. So we're trying to really reduce friction. We're not maintaining that we're going to be the greatest asset to a company's growth. We are there to help them grow in our field of expertise, but it's what we believe to be a necessary field of expertise to help that company get where they want to go. And so we try to do it with the least amount of friction possible, not to be redundant in that phrase, but that's one of our goals with our clients.
No, that's key right there. And I do believe it is really important because, like we mentioned earlier, the foundation of a company all starts with having great team members. And part of that is knowing who you're working with. And I think it's a great service that you guys offer, and it's great to connect after so many years. For everybody, Bryce and I grew up in the same town in Bellingham, Washington. We all went to school together, so it's been great to kind of circle back and connect again after 2 decades now, something like that. Yeah,
it's been a little while, but it's been fun watching what you've done as well, Andy. So no, it's been great, and it's always nice to see people from your hometown kind of I call it winning in life. Joe Rogan has a quote, of if we had less losers, and I don't know what he means by that, but I just think if we had more people pursuing goals, challenging themselves, the world would be a better place. And so it's been great watching what you do, and certainly happy to work with NachoNacho, and this has been a great experience.
Likewise, Bryce. Yeah, it's been great to see the growth of your company, and we're happy to be a part of that journey. So everybody, please check it out today. You can get it for 25% cash back today in NachoNacho's B2B SaaS marketplace. We are the number 1 place to manage, discover, and save on SaaS. We have a lot of great products like Bryce's here, and a lot of talented, a lot of great tips and experience that we could learn from somebody like him to help your company grow. So thanks again, everyone. We'll be back again for next Tuesday for another Nacho Tuesday.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy.
You too, bud.
All right.